Welcome back to How to Tickle Yourself. I'm your host, Duff McDonald, along with my co-host, Matt McButter. Our guest today is nothing short of a rock star. Her name is Anna Mernieks Duffield. She is the lead singer, banjo player, and guitarist of the Toronto-based band Beams, as well as the guitarist and backup singer of the Toronto-based band Ace of Wands. We've had drummer Jody Brummel on the show, as well as the guitarist and backup singer of the Toronto band The Fern Tips. She's also an arborist. She collects information about trees around development sites and makes decisions about which should be saved and protected. In other words, she knows her way around a chainsaw and what she calls the art and science of tree care. Joey and I saw Beams play a few weekends ago at a delightful little venue in Catskill, New York called Avalon. And the show blew my mind. Anna doesn't only shred on banjo and guitar, but her voice is angelic. The harmonies she achieves with Beams singer Heather Mazar are soaring, and her connection to the rest of the band, Mike Duffield, drummer Mike Duffield, who's Anna's husband and who's got a great last name, Craig Moffat on bass, and Martin Crawford on guitar, was spectacular. I immediately canceled what I was doing the next day and drove down to Queens to see them play again at an outdoor show at Culture Lab in Long Island City, and that show was stunning as well. But enough about me. Welcome to the show, Anna. It's a delight to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for the intro.
At the present moment, traveling town to town, the mystery of the motion, right here, right now, right here, right now, whoa, right here, right now.
So we saw back-to-back shows. Like I just said, they were amazing. So you guys have stage presence, whatever it is musicians call it. You guys are clicking, coming out of COVID, coming out of a long break. You just completed a tour of the U.S. What's it feel like to be back on stage after such a hiatus? Does it tickle again?
Oh, yeah. It tickles than ever, I would say. We're just so grateful to be able to do it together. We were working on projects kind of throughout, but to actually be going out and playing for our friends and you know, bringing our sound waves to new places is just amazing.
And I asked this just because as a Canadian in the U.S., all of us who've crossed the border several times ask this almost instinctively. What was it like getting across the border?
Well, we've been crossing the border for a year and a half now, making our new record with Kevin McMahon in New Paltz there. And the rules were always changing. It just became part of the dance of the adventure. So right now, it's pretty much back to the normal hoops of having to have our visa and like having to have our carnet processed, which is basically our customs declaration. So we're used to it not being easy.
But it's getting easier. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So let's talk music. You guys put out I met you not long before COVID, right? Saw you playing with the Fern Tips and then later saw Ace of Wands, but hadn't really gotten a taste of Beams. You guys put out a wonderful album during quarantine called Ego Death.
Oh, thanks. Yes, I did.
And you know, I don't want to turn this into a downer asking about the border and what putting out an album during quarantine is like, but what was putting an album out during quarantine like? It must have been a little challenging.
You know what? It was actually the best experience I've ever had of putting out an album. It was awesome. Because, well, for one thing, there were no real expectations. Just the fact that we were doing it was something that we could just, be grateful for and proud of ourselves for. And there were no time constrictions, like there was no tour booked. So we could take as long as we wanted getting it all together, getting the art together and going over the track listing a million times. Yeah, so it was relaxed in that way. And then another thing that I had the luxury of doing was I was able to be on social media and messaging people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So leading up to the release, Heather and I must have direct messaged like 500 people, and no one really was out doing things. So we had, it's probably sounds a little bit weird to say, but a captive audience for our release. So it just felt like we really had people's attention and they were really grateful. It gave me something to do. And we had so many Bandcamp orders that it was just like a complete athletic event, putting them all together and delivering them. And we just felt super loved. It was amazing. It's probably the opposite of what you would expect.
A lot of bands that I follow or subscribe to some kind of updates, I found myself on Bandcamp a lot during quarantine. I get the feeling that site was kind of a savior for a lot of you who aren't Beyonce. Was that true? Did it sort of come up out of nowhere and serve a purpose that hadn't been served before?
I think that it found its stride. Like we've been on Bandcamp since I think 2013, but they really stepped up during COVID when they waived their fees. That kind of created this, like, how do we help artists? And then they were like, we're selling it for the best margin that you can get online for the artists. And then basically people just saw that and it clicked, like, oh, this is how we can help artists. And it just took off from there. They just found their groove and were maybe rewarded for their generosity, even though it only took maybe put $1 more or $1 or $2 back in the artist's pocket per sale. It was still a very nice gesture. And their live streaming platform is really cool.
And I feel like, at least with some artists that I follow, that I feel more in touch with them. Like they send me emails straight from Bandcamp that seem straight from them. Like Josh Ritter is one. I feel like I'm almost in conversation with Josh Ritter from his Bandcamp stuff. Do you communicate more with fans through Bandcamp than you otherwise would?
I don't know that our fans have picked up too much on it. I feel like still Instagram is the way that most of our fans talk to us, but Bandcamp is a way to get really close to artists for sure. Because most people that have Bandcamp, I think, deal with it directly themselves. Like Bandcamp, yeah, for their stats, they even know that the artist is going to be looking at it. So you can look at the graphs of your sales and then you can click on a certain thing and it turns it into a game of Defender where the peaks are kind of mountains and the valleys are places where you can shoot the aliens.
Cool.
Yeah.
Side scrolling.
You so like that, Matt? A video game built into your day.
They know that we need it when we're looking at that stuff.
So I want to talk about some of the music in a sec, but I want to talk about bands first. You're in arguably 3 bands right now, and while you play guitar and or banjo in all of them, they're different sounds, right? Beams and Ace of Wands are not the same band, and Fern Tips I've only seen once. How do you, as a musician, and this is asked out of complete ignorance, how do you shift from the style to the style to the style? How do you not sort of not remember which band you're playing with when you're in the middle of a solo?
Well, most of my parts are written, but what I guess I don't get too thrown off track by how different they are because I listen to a ton of different music and I just enjoy writing parts that serve the song that's being presented to me. And I love playing in different acts that sound different because it allows me to express my creativity in different ways. Like I also play backup guitar, rhythm guitar in a power pop band, and it all just kind of like shines light on different dusty corners of the room that is my creative being, you know? Sometimes my creative being wants to just play really fast power chord riffs, and sometimes my creative being wants to fill an area with like fuzz phasery soup, you know? It's just such a blessing that I can actually do all of those things and have my own writing as well.
So, as a songwriter, I was trying to figure out how I would describe your songwriting, and I came up with it feels like you are a seeker in song, or at least we're hearing, you're reporting back on the seeking. And Ego Death feels like a really optimistic album. I feel like you and I were in a very similar space in the early quarantine-ish
Hmm.
stuff. And you guys have recorded but not yet mastered another album that's coming out soon called Requiem for a Planet,
Hmm.
which feels like you got pulled back into the muck a little. But then and it moves from sort of moody masterpiecey stuff to more optimistic at the end. Can you describe for us the transition from Ego Death to Requiem for a Planet and sort of what was going on in your head in the writing and stuff?
For sure. So I never quite know what it's going to be like until it's all recorded and I'm putting the pieces together of the puzzle. But Ego Death was definitely, I think about it as this thing that one of my friends who's recovering from alcoholism talks about, the rosy glow of sobriety, where you're just in love with all your new abilities to think and feel and experience joy after being so numb for so long. And that's kind of where Ego Death was coming from. It was like the experience of being stuck and then facing the demons of the stuckness and then experiencing the freedom that came like from the truth of really meeting those demons. And a flower blossomed is like a celebration.
It's such a wonderful song. It makes me so happy every time you sing that lyric. A flower blossomed in my dream. It's amazing.
It makes me super excited about flowers too. It's great when a song can kind of be also remind you how great something in the real world is that you see all the time. And then Requiem for a Planet, I really didn't mean for it to be kind of an inside out ego death, but my writing is always just a reflection of where I'm at. And I guess the rosy glow sort of wore off and I got sucked back into some questions, some existential questions. Requiem for a Planet is actually a title that Jody came up with
Hmm.
from Ace of Wands.
Which planet?
Well, that's a great question. So, Childlike Empress is the song that leads off the album. And I always had this image of basically an empress approaching an intergalactic tribunal. And I guess she was away on some sort of mission, probably a democratic intergalactic mission. And while she was away, she saw two, I guess, bodies collide, and in the aftermath, her planet was destroyed, and she realized everything that she thought made up who she was and where she came from had been obliterated. Which is, I guess, how I've been feeling about my sense of identity. Because part of ego death, it is kind of a real death in a way.
Mm-hmm.
You lose what you thought made up your identity. And in the moments where you don't know what's going to be on the other side, it is frightening. So it's the death of that planet, the death of the inner world. But as an environmental conservationist, I'm also very tuned into the way that our physical planet is suffering. So it could also be taken to be kind of a tongue-in-cheek pre-requiem for our planet, with some options left to reflect on whether we want to actually be in the situation where we have a requiem for our home planet. But yeah, so basically it's like a slightly more ambivalent, less strictly positive, more getting honest about the death part of ego death sort of album.
And you're the producer and the mixer, Kevin, what, McManus, is it?
McMahon, yeah.
McMahon in Rosendale. We saw him just last weekend. His collective Pelicans, or was that the name of their performance?
They're called Pelican Movement.
Pelican Movement, and they played in this beautiful cave under Rosendale. His sound aesthetic is a little murkier than, I would say, Historical Beams.
Mm-hmm.
And the first half of Requiem, you can sort of feel that murkiness in sort of permeating the stuff before it does rise in the end into a to me at least, it feels like a rising, I don't want to say mood, but momentum or something to the album. But definitely there's like less of your finger picking banjo. There's less of, I would say, straight up guitar solos, and more of it's definitely a different kind of sound for you guys. Do you like what came out of that?
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. I was endeavoring to write more simple sort of songs. I think I used to kind of skirt the issues. I used to not write very directly. And with this, I was really trying to get a bit more direct. But having more simple songs, I felt like the sounds themselves needed to be more textured and have a bit more depth to them. And I feel like Kevin and I really had a shared vision sonically going into it that we never really discussed, but it just, as soon as we started making sounds, I knew that it was turning out exactly how I wanted it to.
That's awesome. Matt, you just saw some good live music, right?
Red Rocks. Church.
Who'd you see?
Saw War on Drugs was the headliner, and then Alves opened up for them.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. It came as advertised. I'd been wanting to check out that venue for years and years, and it's just mind blowing. Like I really was stunned the entire time. You know, you're watching the music, but you're also just like looking around, and a pure state of bliss. It was amazing.
You looked a little stunned in at least one of those photos.
Oh, I was very I was very stunned the entire time. It was good.
Anna, what's your favorite venue that you've played?
Oh, I really love the Horseshoe Tavern, I would say. It's an old classic. Yeah. But my bucket list definitely has Red Rocks near the top of it. Red Rocks and Massey Hall. No, MSG.
MSG. We could do MSG. Avalon and Catskill is a delightful little venue for being in the middle of a podunk town in upstate New York. They had great sound there. Speaking of which, I have always loved close harmonies. Like I really gravitate to all that stuff, especially from mid-century. But I am not sure I have ever enjoyed any harmonies as much as yours and Heather Mazar's.
Wow.
And I wanted to know how you guys found out that you could do that. Where did that partnership even come from? Where did you discover her? Where did she discover you? And how'd you figure out how to do what you do?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, we actually used to be in Keith Hamilton's band. Keith couldn't make it to the Avalon show. He had some kidney stones. He's never backed out of a show before, and he usually wouldn't unless it was very serious. So he had his own folk choir called Hamilton Trading Company. And that's where I met him and Mike and Heather and all the rest of them when I moved down to Toronto from Brampton. But one day, Heather and I were standing beside each other in the choir, and Keith had this song about zombies that everyone had to kind of free form, do some creepy ooze, melodic sort of ooze. And we, standing next to each other, could hear that we were listening to each other. We could hear that, like, when she was going up, I was going down. And, after the show, we came together and we were like, that was really cool how we were listening to each other. I really like standing beside you and singing. So when I put out the call to start Beams, or I basically just put out a call on Facebook for people to come over and jam, she was like, can I come over and sing? And I was like, yeah, of course. Let's see what that's like. And that's where it started.
It's really wild because when you're so in Avalon, if you're not looking at the stage, right, or looking at specifically at either of your mouths, like singing, you get the harmony. But if you focus in on either of you, you can actually hear what the same thing that you were just talking about. You can hear the interplay between you guys. It's mesmerizing to watch. It's just amazing.
Cool. She'll be glad to hear that.
Heather's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so doing some research, you guys have made a not small amount of music videos, and apologize for my age or something. I did not know that was still a thing, that a band would regularly make videos. Is that something you still do even with Requiem? Will you throw a couple together? And is it all YouTube now?
Yeah, it's all YouTube. I don't even know how someone would get a music video on MTV. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. But it's always occurred to us, while like it doesn't have any immediate financial returns, visuals, we're a very visual species, and it helps describe the world that the music is happening in. Yeah, it helps let the listeners know where we're coming from. So it's weird. It's one of those, investments where it doesn't have any direct return, but everything helps give what we do context.
And it's fun.
It is fun.
It must be fun. Or no, it's not? It looks fun.
It took me a while to figure out how to do music videos. I actually had like a mental breakdown during the filming of I Wanted to Tell Her, because I just felt so on the spot and I didn't have any idea how to act.
Is that the one with you in the like puppetry?
It's
no, that's Black Shadow. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's Black Shadow.
That has Puppet Me. That didn't require any actual acting on my part. No, it's the one in the train with my dog. And
right.
Yeah. And the director was like, aren't you having fun? Like, why are you being so weird? Like, you're not supposed to be crying on a music video shoot. And then he was like, I'm going away till you figure this out. So I was like, okay, well, what if it's as simple as the camera lens is the audience now? And he was like, well, fine, you can try that. I hope it's good. And then, yeah, that basically was the change where music videos started becoming fun for me. I like cracked the code. Before that,
That's
it
it.
was like a little stressful.
That's interesting. Like early on in my career, I was on the news a lot because I covered the stock market. So I was on TV, like CNN, FN,
I would record it sometimes just because it was so novel.
just
Like
doing
stick a tape in the VCR and record Duff on like
and
CNN FN or something.
if you thought about sort of who might be watching or the sort of abstract things that could get stressful, and it was only when someone told me one day, they were like, look, dude, you just got to think about it as you talking to the person who's talking to you. Right. And just get out all the other stuff out of your head. And I was like, oh. So then suddenly going on a TV set didn't make me nervous at all anymore. It was just like going to talk to someone. So it's just a shift of perspective. That's interesting.
Totally.
Speaking of music videos, though, you own a snake, right? Is that snake still alive and well? I saw it in the video the other day. What's her name?
Gertrude.
And what kind of snake is she?
She's a corn snake. I got her off a Facebook trading group.
Matt, you ever owned a snake?
No, I had lizards though, way
Nice.
back in the day. So I'm familiar with the live feeding. Do you have to do any live feeding?
No, I feed her thawed frozen mice because, and this is a good PSA, live feeding may have its morbid entertainment value, but it also presents the opportunity for the snake to get injured by the mouse's claws.
So you're protecting the snake, not the victim.
My live feeding was crickets. I just, for the record, it wasn't rodents.
I had a gecko before. And the crickets, it's a weird thing where it's like a whole food chain because you have to keep the crickets alive and then you use the crickets to keep the lizard alive. And
my mom was always worried that the crickets would like escape and, be just all over our house.
We had a cricket in our house like 2 weeks ago for about a month in the kitchen.
Yeah. No. One cricket makes a lot of noise. One
cricket. He was a maniac. And at first I tried to root him out and I was like, what am I going to do? Put him outdoors. Maybe he's gone indoor now.
I've never felt more murderous than when I've had a single cricket keeping me awake.
So, when you played in Queens at Culture Lab, an excellent show back to back with the one from the night before, you did play in Queens. You played Running Up That Hill, which I now see that you guys released as a single in 2015. And it seems like the original singer of that song has come back and stolen it back from you. You do a wonderful version of it. How are audiences responding to you playing one of the more popular songs in the country, but, by some measure?
Well, I mean, it kind of goes back to giving a song visuals that I was saying before. I feel like people have a deeper connection now to it because I don't know if you've watched Stranger Things.
With Marguerite, watched the whole thing.
When I saw it, I was just on the edge of my seat, like visually and with the story, they described what I've been trying to describe and maybe what you've been trying to describe. Just like you have the monster's hand over your face, he's like choking you out and you're trying desperately to just like remember something beautiful and choose that over the monster's, grip. And I feel like now that people kind of know that that's what that song's about or what it can be about, they're like getting even more emotionally excited about it. And so am I. So I don't really watch the audience too much while we're playing. Heather does that more, but I'm usually kind of like distracted by trying to play it and sing it. And there's usually lights and stuff. I'm not sure, but it feels good. It was
amazing. It was outstanding.
And Craig broke his string when we did it. So we had to do it as a duo, which we've never really done before. So that was interesting.
The improvisation worked.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have known it wasn't planned. So, I just bought a 16-inch Milwaukee electric chainsaw.
Congratulations.
And
Milwaukee's great. Great
got
homeowner brand.
got poison ivy the first time I used it. I cut down a tree. Joey told me afterwards that she said, "Watch out for that. That's the biggest poison ivy vine I've ever seen running up that tree." I didn't hear that and proceeded to
No.
slice
What's that,
right
Joey?
through it, and it was like it's like this big. So from what I can tell, what happened is I got poison ivy all over the blade, and then basically sprayed it all over my body. And every time I was dealing with a chain. So when we went to England in August, I had the worst case of poison ivy I've ever had in my life. But I was trying to be very zen about it. What's your chainsaw of choice?
Well, I like the steel for power. The Husky has good torque, but usually I would say the steel is what I have the most experience
And do you
with.
are you the person who we're looking at who's up a tree on lines cutting off branches with one hand?
Oh God, no. I was trained before I got in the trees to always keep two hands on the saw. I've never been in a situation where I couldn't position myself to use two hands. I can see a couple situations where, like, if you're in a bucket truck, you might need to, but
Right.
generally two hands, always. Chain break when you're not making a cut. And
Which I was schooled on that when she was recently here. No, we had these guys take down these dead pines in our yard last year, and he was leaning out of the bucket doing one-handed chainsaw acrobatics. Nothing looked dangerous. He was a maestro, but it was
sometimes
just amazing.
in the bucket, if there's not rigging set up, okay. Sometimes that happens, but mostly should never do it that way. It's very dangerous.
So, Anna, beams for me is there. You guys are that kind of band in a couple of categories for me that make me very happy. Number one is there is always at least one, if not probably 3, 4 to half a dozen songs that really tickle me on every album. That's a thing that some artists can do. Some artists, you'll get an album and you'll be like, yeah, no, I'm not in on this one. Every single time. I was looking through some of the other ones. Black Shadow from Gutters in the Glass. I Wanted to Tell Her from Teach Me to Love. Sweet Tea, Born to Run. A Flower Blossomed from Ego Death. On the new one, which listeners, unfortunately, you can't listen to yet, is it called All Around You or All Around?
It's called It's All Around You.
It's All Around You, which brings me to my other thing. Your lyric writing is a joy. Especially because you're someone who rocks out a lot. So sometimes, especially live, it's like I can't quite hear what saying, and then I do tune into a lyric, and there's so much poetry in it. And you are an ocean in an ocean. Is that one? I was like, oh my God, I know what she's talking about. I think Lighter Than a Hummingbird in Flight off the new one. It's All Around You reminded me of the Sturgill song. Have you heard that one? All Around You? No.
Is it about a similar thing?
It's about love being all around you, but I think it's not, any similarities would end there. Both are beautiful songs. And also just the banjo. We can finish with that. Like one of the best things about seeing beams is when you are up there finger picking like a maniac on the banjo. Where did that come from? How did you become a banjo player? And and you're also a guitarist. Can you tell us the difference between playing the two?
Well, I started playing guitar when my older sister won a classical guitar like as a door prize at one of her high school events. Somehow I gravitated towards playing it, and I learned how to play guitar in guitar class at my junior high school. One of the things that we learned how to do was read tab. And the other thing we learned how to do was learn a couple of finger picking styles. So we learned like Blackbird by the Beatles. And I kind of took those two skills and taught myself a few more songs like Angelus by Elliott Smith. And I really love Iron and Wine. So I taught myself a few Iron and Wine songs. So I started a band in high school with a girl named Katie Plant. And she got really into old timey music and really wanted me to learn how to play banjo. So for Christmas one year, she and her siblings got together and bought me a banjo. But unfortunately, we never figured out how to amplify it. And Katie played the drums really loud. So we never really used it in our band. But then when our band ended, I kind of picked it up and just wanted to change from guitar. So I already kind of knew how to finger pick. So I just kind of spent a year getting used to the weird weight distribution of the banjo and just got on the banjo train for like 6 years. But then when Heather started the Fern Tips and needed a somewhat lead guitar player, I started to get back into it and I started to use guitar pedals, and it kind of opened me up to like the vast array of sonic landscapes I could create with the instrument.
Oh, okay.
And it felt kind of like an old hug, like even an old hug. Yeah, because that's what we like about hugs is how old they feel. Even the way the guitar is shaped, it just like cradled my body again in this beautiful, familiar way. So, and I could just dig in and be louder than ever before. So it felt like coming home. And I've really enjoyed being with the guitar again. And the sustain, it's like I can hit a note with the right pedals on and do all this other weird stuff, like jump around and do back bends and just like express myself in these other ways that with the banjo, I'm a little more locked into constantly creating the sound. So I don't know. It's fun having both, but I'm definitely back in love with the guitar in a real way.
Either way, either one in your hand. I love the Beams live shows. It's so good.
Thanks.
So, thank you for joining us. This is wonderful. Listeners, check them out. Requiem for a Planet is coming out when? Possibly?
It's coming out as soon as we can either find someone who will help us put it out, or whenever our patience runs out, whatever the sooner is of those two, hopefully by the end of next year.
All right. And in the meantime, you got Ego Death to tide you over. It's a beautiful, beautiful album, as well as their back catalog. So thanks for joining us, Anna. It's been great.
Thanks, Duff. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Anna.
Love Anna. Loves her music and stuff, and just sort of wish there was a way we could make our listeners experience the songs in addition to interviewing her. So go listen to Ego Death on Spotify if you're inclined. It's a really great album. Imagine that, being in 3 bands. That's like having, and she also has a job. So she's got like 3 side gigs going. Have you ever had 2 side gigs going?
Yeah, I do right now.
What do you have? What do you got going right now?
Well, there's How to Tickle Yourself would be one of them.
Right. Okay.
And then
right. All right.
Beat Seeker is another. I've got side gigs upon side gigs. I've always had like too many things going on at any given time. But I like it like that.
I don't know if you can hear them in Sweet Tea, but the harmonies with her and Heather Mazar are simply amazing. They're worth seeing for that reason alone, but also just a really fun band live.
Mm-hmm.
And we love Anna. The whole band stayed here the night that they were playing in Catskill. And then we saw her and Mike again when they came down for this thing in Rosendale. Such great people. And it's great to be so close to Toronto, because they do come down here and play different venues around here numerous times.
Mm-hmm. Well, now that I'm in the know, I will be checking out Beams, and I've been meaning to get to an Ace of Wands show for for a while now. So I will be checking out Ace of Wands as well.
If you're listening, Jody,
yeah,
he's just committed to that. So
I'm committed. I'm committed. I will go. I like, one of the ways she was like, her different guitar styles going from band to band. I like how she said, sometimes I just like to rock out with some, I think she said, fuzz fadery soup. It's like I get that.
In
like
Ace of Wands too, those girls rock with Jody providing the locomotion. It's just it's a great band too. I love them. I saw them right before quarantine in Kingston. Actually, it was the last show I saw before quarantine, and no regrets about that because it was also an amazing show.
In your Kingston.
In our Kingston, yeah, at a place called BSP's. Okay, so I've got one for you. I'm not sure whether it totally qualifies, but it's just such a great word. I was reading some Oriabindo the other day, and he used the word any wither.
Any wither. I don't know if I've ever used that word.
Right? It's and you know what it is? It's like a sophisticate's version of anywhere.
Yeah.
And it means towards any place, in any direction, or to any place. So you can say, oh my God, these guys don't know where they're going. It seems like they could be going any whither.
Yeah. Which, it's anywhere. Right. Yeah.
So if you're afraid to try it out, I'll do it. I'm not afraid. I'll let you know when I work it into conversation.
I might put it in the clip and, fire it on some occasion. I don't know.
Next thing you know, it's going to be in a Beam song lyric if Anna's still listening here.
So I have a question for you, actually. You said you used the term podunk town. You said some podunk town.
Right.
What's that? What's a podunk town?
Have you looked that up before you asked?
No, I have not looked it up.
So here we are. This is from Oxford Dictionary. A hypothetical small town regarded as typically dull or insignificant. I did not mean to insult Catskill in that way.
No.
I was going with small.
Small.
Right? It's
small,
like
miscellaneous town too, right? Like you meant a small.
Like Duntroon is a podunk town. Dunedin, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's small without, people would be like, oh, is that near Creemore? Or is that, and places that are defined more by what they're near than what they are.
Yeah, like a crossroads.
Yeah, or just a, place you're passing through if you're a High Plains drifter, right?
A hayseed town.
Sweet Tea has got this great thing because in it they're clearly driving in the band bus across the country. And she talks about wanting to get out and feel the ground. They must have passed through a lot of podunk towns in that van.
We've played every podunk town between.
Yeah, there you go.
Winnipeg and Calgary.
Although it may be a little insulting. So small town.
Yeah, we're not. It's all in how you use it, right? I mean, I came from a podunk town, Armitage, Ontario. So.
It's all in how you use it. Which can that be applied to everything in life? It's all in the use. All right, so before we wrap up here, Joey also saw Beams play in Catskill, and surely has some different thoughts on what's going on stage, and Anna and Mike and the rest of the band who were here and hot tubbing. So let's see what the Sage of Sages has to say about this excellent Toronto band. So here we are again with the Sage of Sages, Joelle Moss. Welcome back to the show, Joey.
Thank you, Duff. I'm happy to be here.
So I think I told you in 2020 I saw Anna play with her other band, Ace of Wands, at BSP in Kingston. And at the end of that show, I was like, I finally got it. I said the same thing to you at Avalon when we recently saw Beams there. Did you get it while you were watching the show?
I don't know really. I thought they were beautiful, and Anna, every time I see her, I like her more and more, and every time I see the band, I like them more and more, and appreciate the talent that's there. Like they're all really talented people, and Anna's voice is just beautiful, and I love that she plays banjo.
And I'm a big fan of the harmonies that she does with Heather. What do you think of that whole setup on stage?
I love it. I think I've always liked it, but I don't think I knew what it was necessarily, a close harmony. And it's like one voice, but one very full voice. It's gorgeous.
Unity and multiplicity, you might say.
You could say that.
And then we went with Anna recently. She didn't play, but we saw that show in the cave outside Rosendale. How was that for you?
One of the coolest venues I've seen a show in, for sure. It's that place was stunning. A little scary for some, but beautiful. And the acoustics were wild.
And you've had the entire band Beams stay at your house. Are they welcome back here after their behavior?
They were great guests. They were wonderful, and they're welcome back for pancakes anytime.
Thank you, Jogi.
Thank you, Duff.
All right. So I am going to close today with a riddle. And it's not Aurobindo, but it's Ramesh Balsekar. I don't think he made it up, but he was just quoting it in one of his books. I think The Only Way to Live, or another one. I've been on reading a tear of him these days. So I got a riddle for you, Matt. You ready?
I'm in.
What is it that is greater than God and more evil than the devil, which the poor have and the rich do not need, and which will kill you if you eat it?
Nothing.
Bang!
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. It's funny. I was on to nothing after the first two.
Right.
Like greater than God
and more evil than the devil.
Yeah,
Nothing.
And more evil than the devil. I was like, it's got to be nothing. And then it worked through. Yeah.
I love the it will kill you if you eat it.
It will kill you
it's
if
so
you eat
good.
it. Yeah, I did the test on that one, and I was like, okay, that's it for sure.
There we go. Full points. Thank you for listening once again. And we will be back with you in a week with another show.
Bye-bye.
At the present moment, traveling town to town, the mystery of the motion, right here, right now, right here, right now, whoa, right here, right now.
You've been listening to How to Tickle Yourself with your hosts Duff McDonald and Matt McButter. You can help us by liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast with others. You can talk to us and see what else is happening on Instagram and Facebook at How to Tickle Yourself. This program was recorded in Studio B of the historic Rockledge Recording Studio and the Tunnel Under Arundel. Right Here, Right Now, our original 16-part theme music was written and recorded by the legendary Paul Reddick and Kyle Ferguson of the Sidemen, with the brilliant Steve Mariner on bass and drums and in the mixing room. The podcast is produced and distributed by Storic Media. Our editor is Andrew Steiner. Our coordinator is Samantha Abramovitz. Our producers are Kristen Verbitsky and Chuck LaBella. For more information, visit storicmedia.com. That's STORIC media.com.
My love, my dear,